Okay, vacation time's almost over. I finally have the house to myself this morning, and it's time for another video, number 16, if I'm not mistaken, about making airports with WET for X-Plane. And today's subject will be placing signs, both the upright taxi signs that you can see when you taxi your aircraft, and also the signs and polygons that are painted on the ground that you see at bigger airports. And we'll start with the easier variant of those two signs, and those are the regular taxi signs. You can access them by clicking here on the sign symbol, and you get a style. You only have to pick default, there's nothing else. You get a size, there's a small taxiway to medium, large, and then small distance remaining and large distance remaining. And then there's the text that you want to type. Now, in previous versions, up to about, I think like 2 years ago, you had to enter a cryptic code when you made your signs. And if you hover your mouse, you can still see that. You see those parentheses and then the at sign, yellow, parenthesis closed, and then the text. This was some sort of code and was very, very error prone. Unfortunately, nowadays we have a really easy method. So let's just jump in. I put a text in here, but you can change the text later. If you click on the text, you get the front and the back of the sign fields, and you can just simply um, click on what you want, HEL, for example, for help or whatever. And you can also use your keyboard once you have determined if you want to make black writing on yellow background or yellow writing on black ground or the red and white one, then you can just use your keyboard and type freely whatever you want to type. And there's some you can write on the front and you can write on the back. That's really easy. And of course, you can use these numbers as well. They're mostly used for the distance remaining signs on the runways. And then you have some symbology, like here, this is for the category 2 or 3, hold short. This means that the taxiway is coming to an end, no entry. And of course, this means that you're leaving the ILS sensitive area. And those would be good for going on the back, for example. But of course, sometimes you have a signs or some that say something on the front, and then when the aircraft goes the other way, taxis the other way, then you would read what's on the back. Let's do an example. Now, for our little airport here, I have no idea what these taxiways are named, but for example, right here, I would expect some signs. This is runway 0321, so we would place a sign here, place it like this. Again, you draw, you click, and then you draw the direction. You don't really get a 3D representation. As much as you zoom in, it will always stay this little symbol. So you have to experiment a little, and often you can see where the signs are placed on the background satellite imagery. Let's see if this is the case here. I go with the Esri, and it's not clear enough really. But sometimes when you use other sources, you can determine maybe somewhere here, but you'll get a feeling for it eventually where the signs should be. And then you place the sign, and then we didn't specify anything. You can see we would click on the sign, and then say on the front we want this to be uh, 03, and this would denote, you make return, and you say this is now showing 03 in this direction, so people would know that it's 03, or you could even put runway 03 ahead or something like this. And just look at some YouTube videos maybe, or you get the after a while when you do airports, you know that the smaller ones usually have just the 03, and the bigger ones would have like a runway head warning and stuff like that. And this is what you would do. And maybe on the back you would put a sign like this. That means you're leaving the runway sensitive area. So someone taxiing back this way would know that he's just clear of the runway once he passes that sign. Of course, we also have the symbology on the ground, but the more signs, the better for us stupid pilots. Now, for the case of runway signs, you would probably, or Oops, again, this isn't working, so I'm going edit, duplicate in place. You would probably have another sign right here. They like to do them in pairs on both sides, but mostly when you have regular signs, you will only have a sign that is on the left side. The captain of the aircraft is sitting on the left side. He needs to read the signs. So you will want to go down your taxiways. Let's pretend this is taxiway A and this is taxiway B. So an aircraft taxiing down this way would need a sign, maybe like right here, on its left side, and the sign would say you are on taxiway A. This is yellow writing on black background, and then the other way is the black writing on the yellow background is the direction sign. So you would say, and you would need to turn left and also need to turn right to get on taxiway. Oops, here we go, Bravo. So this is what you would expect there. On the back, I wouldn't expect anything because an aircraft going down this way, the captain is sitting on the left. He would only look on the left. I mean, he could see the sign on the right, but that's not the way the standard is. The taxiway direction and location information signs are usually on the left side of the taxiing aircraft. So I wouldn't expect a sign here at all, and I wouldn't expect anything on the back of this sign either. Now, I would expect a sign for an airplane coming down this way, maybe here on the left side saying you are on B, turn left for A. And I would expect a sign maybe being here saying you are on B, turn right for A, and so on. You get the drift, and often you can see the signs on the satellite image and then place them accordingly. See, there's another one here probably, and this one I would expect to point. Now, this is a little exception to the rule. The plane is taxiing down this way, but since the taxiway is over here, I wouldn't expect it to be here on the left side of the captain. It would still be on the right. This is like a little exception. Also, sometimes if you have like an apron here and they couldn't put a sign right on the apron because planes would run over it, they would also put the sign on the other side, just as an exception to the rule. And here I would just expect this one to say, this is taxiway B, we said, so it would say B, turn to the right and up, maybe like this. And then, the guy that taxis down the runway says, okay, if I'm taking off this taxiway, I'm vacating on Bravo, and he can call the tower, no, 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 vacating on Bravo, and then he knows where the guy is. Okay, now this could also be a distance remaining sign, but I don't think on a small airport like this we'd have distance remaining signs. Here you can see two more signs. There would be one here, maybe saying this is Charlie, so it would be turn left to Charlie, and here it would be turn right into Charlie as the guy comes down. There's one here definitely, and this one would say you're on A and turn left for Charlie and turn right, and it could say you're turn right for Charlie, or it could say turn right for the apron. And we'll just make a little example here to show you one more feature. If you say you are on, maybe it says turn left for Charlie, and then you are on Alpha, and it would say turn right for Charlie as well. And then sometimes you want to split your signs. This is small. Here we go. You want to split your signs. And then you could use this. There's one that says that's just like a blank. And this one is better. This is the split. And if you click on it, nothing happens. But now if you type, you could type. Oh, actually, it doesn't work this way. You have to enter it afterwards. So you click here. You say split the sign right here. And you see you get this little black line in between, and then it says turn right to Charlie, and this would also be the apron or whatever you want to put there, or terminal, or whatever it says in reality, ideally. But of course, even the sim pilots using an airport would need help and direction. Don't overdo it. Don't put any stupid stuff there like turn right here for a cool drink or whatever. Keep it realistic. Keep it also short. These signs look stupid if they're really long, and so, it probably wouldn't say C and apron, it would say either or, but I just wanted to show you how this works. Sometimes you want to split your signs, and then this one here with a black line in the middle is what you want to use. There's also one here for the black variant and one here for the red one. And of course, you see that this is no, this is complete. These are all the letters you have, so you can do some writing, but don't put this airport was made by somewhere or so. This is not allowed, really. We want to keep it realistic. Sometimes I use these taxi signs also on bigger airports to denote the stands of the aircraft. You know, we have on bigger airports, not on this small one, but we have gates, and it's really hard if you spawn your aircraft here and it should be gate 5. You don't know where you're at. And in the real world, all the gates on airports do have signage on them. So these taxi signs sometimes they can double, and I would place them maybe here, and I would just call it. You can say gate, or you can say pos 5 like this, and then the guy that spawns there, he can read the sign and says, okay, I'm on position 5, that's cool. And he can call into ground and says, I'm parked at 5, I need to taxi to the runway. But again, make sure that these signs, if you do it, they're not in the way of the ground vehicles. They would be in the way of the pushback truck if they're right in the front. So sometimes I offset them a little bit to the left and slant them a little like this, so that the pushback truck, if it approaches the airliner from the front, doesn't run over the sign. It looks stupid. The signs are not solid. It won't crash, but again, it would look stupid. The signs are lit at night, and I placed some here. We'll see I'll run X-Plane in a second, and we can see the size of these signs. Again, they come in the different variants, and I think the only useful ones are really medium taxiway and large taxiway. Even large taxiway is hard to read from an airliner. I think they said that these signs are correct in size, but just running of taxiing in the simulator, they're so much harder to read than in reality. So I suspect that even the large taxiway is not large enough. And then we have the small distance remaining and the large distance remaining. You'll see that small distance remaining is just the same size as large taxiway, so there's really nothing to gain by using that. And the large distance remaining is simply too big for regular taxi signs, but you can use it for big airports when you do actually place the distance remaining signs. Now there's the distance remaining signs, they deserve another mention. We I think talked about this before. If you go to runways, we have the option to click the distance signs property here. And if I click that, you can see that these show up, and this is where X-Plane would place them. Now, a lot of times it happens that by accident, these, like right here, these show up right on the taxiway. Now, this is not what we would want, because it would look stupid and no airport would place a distance remaining sign right here on the taxiway. But you can't really pick and choose which one you want. If you click this property, then X-Plane will just put them there. It will just measure 1,000 feet, 2,000 feet, 3,000, and so on, and you will get these signs. Now, what this really is useful for is for helping you place custom signs. Now, what I would do in this case, I would click on the signs. I would go size, maybe for small airport like this, small distance remaining, but most cases large distance remaining. And then I would just start with a 0 on the front and a 0 on the back, just for kicks, and then or just to start out with something. And then I would place them right on these little symbols. So the first one would be here facing this one. The next one would be here facing this one. And often you only have them on one side of the taxiway. Now, obviously, this is easy because they are all on the side where there are no exit taxiways, so this makes it easy. But sometimes on bigger airports, of course, you have them on both sides. And then if you by accident find out that one should be right here, because this is exactly 1,000 feet from the last one, well, the real airports don't put them there. They just move them over a little bit. This is not something that needs to be super precise. No airliner is really using these signs except for some general information. They're not timing their touchdown or their takeoffs, according to these signs. It's just an information thing. So in my opinion, they don't need to be super precise. It's just like a general hint. Okay, if you're lining up and you're expecting to be on a 10,000 foot runway, but by accident you took this one and it says 7,000 remaining, something is wrong, but it's not important if it's really 7,000 or 7,100 or 200. So this is what I would do. And you see they're all called 00. And now you can really start going down one by one, and you say maybe this is like a 7,000 foot runway. So the first one should say on the front, you already spent 1,000, so 6,000, and on the back it should say 1,000 remaining. So now the next one down over here would say, of course, 5 remaining and 2 remaining, and so on. So that the total should always be 7, and you go 6, 1, 5, 2, 4, 3, and so on, and you would keep going down. I don't know, this is not a 7,000 feet runway, but this is the way it should work. And I think if you look at the satellite imagery close, you can see that this airport doesn't have any distance remaining signs, but on the bigger ones you'll see them, and you can place them pretty much right where they are in reality. And of course, it's also nice if they all line up. So if you really want to do that, you can either place them precisely where the preview ones are. See, I didn't do that. I'm off a little. Or you can later on select them all and then use the edit align, and now they will all be in a nice line. This is important because as the plane approaches the runway, you will look down all these signs, and if they're a little bit off, you will immediately see that, and it looks sloppy. So make sure that you align them nicely, even if they're not precisely now on the preview ones, then you still have them aligned. And now another important thing, when you're done with placing them, uncheck the distance sign one, because X-Plane will place them, and you'll have double ones, and again you'll have the unwanted ones on the exits. So this is something that you can use to help you place your distance signs, but of course here in this case we don't have any. Now next subject is placing ground painted signs, and this is a little bit more of an effort. They are easy to access. You can see them by going to, I think they're under markings. Let's see. Yes, you have them airport markings, and you have a couple ones. You have the green colored area polygon. This is just like another polygon that you would use. Sometimes the big airports have them to denote areas where you can't taxi. So they would be, over here maybe like this, and then of course you want to snap them so they line up nicely, but you can see this is this little greenish area here, and on bigger US airports you'll find that instead of planting grass, they'll just do concrete and paint it green, and no one has to mow it, I guess. So that's the benefit. So we now have this green polygon, and that's all there's to it. Now we have these ones, and they are called the draped direction signs, the draped location signs, and the draped runway signs. Now, if you, let's start with the direction signs. You say, okay, cool, I'll place one. You go click, 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 click. And if you, oops, I missed the little circle. Here we go. So now we have them, but of course this isn't useful. This is just like a polygon. You can see, you can drag it and move it around, and this is all fine and dandy, but of course you just want the individual letters. Now, the first thing you want to do when you make a sign is you want to make it really rectangular, so you can use edit orthogonalize, Control Q. Now it's really rectangular. Now, here is the trick. If you just want one sign, you need to drag this out. If you don't, you can't see it. So you drag it out, and then you get to the texture tab. Here's the texture tab, and you can see the texture tab is selecting everything. If I just click on 0, you just get the 0. If I click on 4, you get the 4. See, and when you zoom in here with the mouse wheel, and you can hold the right button to move this around, you can actually, you could, if you click on the little arrow here, you could drag this one, and you see what happens is, oops, it goes a little haywire, but what you do is basically you tell X-Plane which part of this texture you want to display. And I'm just doing this to show you how it works. The way you want to do it is you want to click on, keep this little one here selected, click on one, and then you get the number that you want. And here's another one. If you click on it again, you can see that it switches through a couple of variants. See, this is the 6 This is the regular 6. There's a black line on the right and this on the left that would look great if you just want to paint a 6. But if you have a 5 as well, um, I'm going to duplicate it and duplicate. Ah, crap. Nope, that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to duplicate this. Control duplicate in place. Here we go. And I'm going to move this over here. And now if you have two signs and you want to put them together, then the idea is, and this is a little cumbersome, that you want to zoom in as much as you can, align them as best as you can, and then click, and that's how I do it. Click, and now you have basically two signs side by side, and the one says you want to write 56. So it says 56, but now you have this black line in the middle. It looks stupid. Now you just click on the 5 somewhere off the center a little bit, and you click, and if you click twice, you see now you have the variant with a black line on the left side and no line on the right side. And you can do the same for the 6. Click, click, and you see now we have a nice sign that says 56, and it's seamless, so to say. You could do this manually as well. You could say, hey, I want to zoom in really well, and I'm grabbing this side and I drag it on. You see here it happens. You get the little black line on the side or no black line on the side, and that's how you can manipulate these. Sometimes you do two signs on top. You don't want to have a black line on top, so you just drag this down. See how this appears? That's how you can manipulate it. And you can also, if you click here again, you can also manipulate just this one. And it's a little buggy. You see it just jumped down here. Don't ask me why, but normally you can grab the node and rectify it. And then you say, hey, I want maybe a little black edge up here or no edge or whatever. You can go a little more wild with that, but you usually don't want to do that. Usually you want to stay here on this little marquee tool type thing and then just click on it until you have the variant that you need. Now, if you want to see this airport doesn't have any signs on the ground, but if you do have them, usually what I do is I take the sign tool or any other polygon really, and I'm clicking. You can also, if you know that you're going to do an F, you can just click on the F, and then I go to where I see the writing, and I start on the lower left corner. I go to the other side, I go up and I go over and I go like this. Now see, I have the F, but it doesn't matter. You saw that we can change it later on. I go Control Q, and now I have, let's say this is like 3 or 4 letters. Then I'm using this as a template, and I'm going to just select the top and the left and go Control E, maybe 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 2 letters. Do the same here. Select this one, hold down Control, select this one, Control E to split. And now I have like a template thing, and I'm going to lock this. And now I can start saying I want runway signs, and I want to start with a 1, and I'll do it down here. You can still see the little outline here, here, here. And now I'm going to click, 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 click. Now I know that this is a nice rectangular sign that fits right in here, and I can just duplicate it in place, and I use the marquee tool to drag it over here. And now I'm going to snap again, snap, and here's that little node somewhere over here. Here it is, snap. It's kind of hard to see because it's invisible, but I know that I'm close, so I just need to click, and see, now I have 2 already. Now I can later on, the template that I made, I'll just move out of the way again. This will be gone. But now I have 1, 2, 3. You can make as many letters as you want and then use them. It's a little better than the method I showed you before, where I just moved this over, because let's exaggerate a little bit. I'll duplicate this in place, and I move this over. But let's say I'm a little sloppy. See, I go like this. I'm now exaggerating, and then I snap this one over here, and I snap this one over here, and you see where I'm getting at. Because I don't have the template behind it, I can't snap these guys to the right position. So now eventually I'll have a little sloppy looking sign. It's okay for one or two if you're really careful, but it's if you're making a template, then I would what I do is I look at the airport. I see, okay, the most or the biggest sign I need has like 5 or 6 letters. So I'm making this one really big, and I'm placing the 6 letters. And then later on, let's erase this one. When I have a sign that says 1 1, for example, and I want another one, I'll go easy. I'll just duplicate this in place. I drag it over somewhere else. First, I make maybe all my runway signs or whatever, place this wherever I want, and then later on, I can simply change it by going texture and changing this to a 3 and this to a 8 or whatever. You get the drift. And then you can really make these taxiway signs really fast. You have one template, you place it first, and then later on you change the number simply by clicking. Now, if you find out, okay, I don't want the runways ones here, I want the direction signs now, it's easy again. You just you have to select all the little textures here. You see them. I selected both of them. And of course, I go to selection. Now you have the resource here, and you know where I'm going to. I'm going to direction signs. I Control C, copy the resource. I'm Control V, pasting the resource. Hold down Control, hit return, and I've changed the resource on both of my selected polygons to the direction signs polygon resource, or I could do it to the location signs, and it switched to location signs if I'm going back to texture. And of course, oops, go V, click just one, then I can change this again at liberty to whatever I want. There are a couple of special ones, like for example this X that you would place on closed sections, and you can of course drag it to make it as big as you want. These are just regular polygons. You can drag them to whatever shape and size you want, and you can we have like a blank one that you can also use if you just wanted to make a big yellow spot somewhere, or sometimes if you do writing, you need to have like a blank, and you know where I'm getting at. You can experiment with that. And there's one thing to say here on the red one, we don't have all the letters. They're just the runway ahead is here, but this is just one big simple texture. It's not RUNW. Of course, you could cheat a little by saying, I have this over here. We could say, okay, I have this one, and I'm just using the runway, and I just want the R, for example. Well, it's stupid because I have the R here, but I just want the U. So what you would do is you would just go like this, and you would just zoom in. Oops, clicked next to it, click here, and see there's the U. You can cut out the letters that you need, but some are not there. Some you would be missing, so you just can't write anything with red on white, white on red that you want. A couple use cases where I wanted to do that and it didn't work because I only have this limited section. But I don't think they're going to add anything to that soon, so you'll just have to do with what you have. Now, this is pretty much it. Lot of information to take in, but I'm really happy that we have this versatile tool now of making signs and placing them on the ground. And some people say, well, I wish we had a system like we do for the taxiway signs, where you don't have to add polygon to polygon, and then it's a little cumbersome to change them all to the correct property and size and everything. But at the same time, it's pretty versatile, and you can make a lot of signs with that. And I'm really happy Michael came up with this system. It works pretty well. Once you get the hang of it, you can do a lot of signs really quick with great quality. It looks great in sim. And last thing I want to mention is, if you have really complex signs with many different polygons next to each other, and you look at them in the simulator, sometimes you'll find out that the edge of them is looking a little jagged. I'm exaggerating again, it looks like this maybe or so, and you say, hey, I'm totally 100% sure these are all aligned. I even grabbed them all here. Let's say You grab these and you click the align edit one, and I'm 100% sure they're straight, but they're not in the simulator. Well, this is due to the inaccuracy of positional placement of nodes in X-Plane. This is normal. It happens for every node, but on nodes that are hundreds of meters apart, like on a taxiway, you don't notice if they're off by a few centimeters. This has to do with the positional accuracy. But if you have signs that have nodes that are really close to each other, then you will notice if you look down the sign from the side. So if this happens, just bite down on your tongue. It's just nothing that can really be done about that. And well, that's it. Have fun. And oh, you know what? I wanted to show you the signs here real quick in Sim. And we're going to do that. I'll just put this one over here so we can see them. I'll grab this one as well. You know what? I'll grab it with a marquee tool. And this will conclude our little videos. If you want to drag them over, you got to be careful that you always grab the middle with this marquee tool, because otherwise you'll distort them. We'll just place them here for now. And of course, if I want to export this, this needs to be inside my airport. And I'm going export scenery pack. I'm not even going to save that because it's, these signs aren't good. I'll do them later. Okay, here we are. I just turned on the sound so we can, not even sure if it records anyway, but here we go. See, you can already see our handiwork. There's that big 6 that we placed. And of course, the more you drag out these textures, the easier it is to see that they're not really perfectly lined on the side. But if you have regular signs, then like you see here on that uniform, one uniform, it looks great. And also another great thing is that these signs are semi-transparent, so you can see the texture of whatever you place them on a little bit through. It looks like really like paint. They did a great job on that. I think it looks pretty realistic. And here are the different sizes. I put a Cessna here so you can compare them. Small taxiway, medium, large taxiway. This is the medium or the small distance remaining. You can see it's the same size as the large taxiway, and this is the big distance remaining. Just experiment with them. And of course, you can batch change the size later on too. If you find out all my signs are too small, just select them all, change the property while holding down the control key. But just wanted to show you real quick. I also placed some lights. That was the subject of the last video. And I think our airport is starting to look good at night, and we have lots of lights. You can see I played with the variants here, the white ones for the parking lot and the yellow ones for all the airport movement areas. These were default ones that came with this hangar when I copied and imported it, so I didn't do those. And yep, I think that little airport looks pretty cool at night now. And another night thing is, see, we have our taxiways here, and of course they are lit at night. One last thing before I forget, some people like to place little concrete polygons. They look like concrete foundations. You can do that. Make a little concrete polygon rectangle, and that sometimes looks a little better. Again, look at the satellite picture of your airport. Some have them, some don't. And of course, it's a lot of work to place these concrete polygons, especially since you don't know how far these two, don't know if you can see them, those two poles that they sit on, you don't know how far they're apart. It looks stupid if the concrete polygon is just too small. But if you are the guy that places all these blue taxiway edge lights manually, then you'll probably also not refrain from putting down concrete or asphalt foundations for your taxi signs. It looks a little more realistic. Again, it's a lot more work and not required, but it's something that people do. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll try to get going on the next one pretty soon.